Ukraine War 25 halves. Russian troops crossed the border in many directions at the same time. Russian troops crossed the border in Ukraine. The military summary channel reported that today, February 25, the Russia-Ukraine conflict entered its fourth year. On the third anniversary of the outbreak of fighting in Ukraine, Western heads of state met in Kiev without the Americans. However, on the front line, events continued to unfold without any hindrance. On the ground, the Russian army, RFAF, continued to defeat Kiev forces in the Kursk region. Experts predict that in just a few months, the Ukrainian army, AFU, will fall in the strategic city of Sudra. At the same time, after the Ukrainian army surrendered in Sverdlikovo, the RFAF crossed the border in many different points at the same time. Moscow forces are also said to be about to open the battle for Siversk and advance into the Dnipro region. Their offensive operations are still mainly concentrated south of Donetsk. It seems that the RFAF wants to control Privolny and Berlatsky. Activity is also increasing again in Chasov Yar. Geolocated videos show the RFAF making a fierce breakthrough along the H-32 route towards Tupochki. In addition, the Russian Defense Ministry reports the capture of the village of Topoly in Kharkov. Russia is about to lock down the Ukrainian Khortytsia group. According to the Redovka channel, Moscow's forces are developing on a wide front in two directions, preparing to lock down and destroy the core units of the AFU Khortytsia group of forces. Specifically, from Velika Novoselka, the RFAF is successfully carrying out a breakthrough on a wide front. The breakthrough is carried out across the entire area between the Mokry Yali and Vorona rivers. The Russian military's objectives are clear. By establishing control over the bend of the Volkhya River, they would be able to lock down the Khortytsia group units in the area between the Mokry Yali and Volkhya rivers. The terrain in the southern Donbass region is rich in small rivers, which RFAF units would have the opportunity to exploit to the fullest. The first such advantage is the Vorona and Mokry Yel canals, which would be extremely difficult for the enemy to defend against with flank counterattacks. In addition, with the standard decision-making plan of the Kiev command, the threat of isolating the large units of the Khortytsia group would most likely be ignored. In the long run, this would deprive the AFU of the combat capability of the potentially encircled brigade, and would have further consequences for neighboring groups. The offensive between the Mokry Yali and Vorone rivers will form the southern boundary of the future encirclement of the Ukrainian army. But what will be the northern boundary? This issue is being solved by the Moscow units attacking from the Andriivka, Serebryannoy and Novoelizavetovoka directions. The final objective in this area of attack is the village of Novopavlovka. The capture of this settlement will lock the Kiev forces. The only option that the RFAF can avoid a disaster is to immediately retreat behind the bend of the Vovcha river and then use this riverbank for defense. However, the Kiev command seems to adhere to the principle of defending to the last minute. Moreover, the commander of the Khortytsia group, General Drapati, who is also the commander of the Ukrainian ground forces, will fight to the end under Kiev's orders. Reinforcements were sent from the Tavria group to help the Khortytsia group hold out. But, as the situation is showing, they have made no difference. The Siversk front suddenly heats up. The Military Chronicles channel reports that the 7th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade of the Russian Southern Group has completely defeated the Ukrainian 81st Airborne Brigade in Balay Gora and several important fire positions west of the Melovoy Quarry, forcing the enemy to retreat to the border between Lugansk and Donetsk. Further offensive operations may continue along the high ground from Artemonovsko towards the Kovilnik Reserve near Grigorovka and the Sahitye Gori National Park. Currently, gunfire is reported about 2 kilometers northwest of the Melovoy Quarry. The priority of the Moscow forces is to advance towards Grigorovka and then to Serebrenka, moving to cover the northeastern approaches to Siversk. Fire support for the RFAF comes from FPV drones, multiple rocket launchers, 130mm M46 long-range guns, and various artillery and mortars. To reach Siversk, the Moscow forces will need to clear enemy positions on the heights near Verkhnykamenskoye, where the AFU's 118th Territorial Defense Brigade is stationed, and dislodge the 4th Brigade from the Chubarovsky Lake area. According to Ryba, after long battles, the Russian army is once again in control of most of the Belogorovka area, which has changed hands several times before and suffered heavy damage. There is now footage of the raising of the victory flag in various parts of the village, confirming the success of the Russian army. And south of Belogorovka, the RFAF captured at least part of the Zolotaevskoye Reserve, where enemy counterattacks took place as they broke through south of the village. In Vremyaveske, RFAF makes major offensive from Bolshaya Novoselyka. The Ryba channel reports that in the direction of Vremyaveske, the Russian army, RFAF, is making impressive progress. It has captured large areas in the fields between the settlements of Novocheretovotoy and Novoselyka. It is characteristic that the Kiev forces have abandoned some of the captured positions without resistance. As a result, by February 2021, the RFAF's forward assault units actually reached Berlatskoye and Privolnoye. According to field sources, in the fields and forts west of Novy Komar and Novocheretovotoy, Moscow forces have captured several large forts, as well as taken control of the Krytoy ravine on February 21. It is noteworthy that they took control of this objective with virtually no losses of equipment, given the truly intense use of UAVs by the AFU, which was a clear success. At the same time, to the west, in the Privolnoye and Berlatskoye areas, the offensive became more difficult. The AFU carried out numerous attacks with UAVs and artillery. But the Kiev forces could not hold out there for long, largely due to the loss of positions near Novocheretovotoy. In addition, between Rivne and Novodarovka, some time ago, the Moscow forces also established control over forest belts in a small encirclement between settlements. At the same time, the enemy maintained a presence in the vicinity of these villages. By this time, the scale of the offensive could have been even greater. As the RFAF's actions continued, perhaps evidence of new successes of the Russian army in this direction will soon appear. Ukrainian General Staff, Russia attacked 27 times in the direction of Pokrovsk. Ukrainska Pravda reported that the report of the Ukrainian General Staff on the evening of February 24 said, since the beginning of the day, there have been 92 clashes, including 27 in the direction of Pokrovsk. Russia carried out 53 airstrikes, using 73 Cub bombs. In addition, they used 1.171 Suicide UAVs and carried out more than 3.000 artillery strikes. The Ukrainian General Staff confirmed that the AFU had basically repelled the enemy's attacks in Kharkov, Kupiansk, Liman, Toretsk, Pokrovsk, Novopavlovsk, Gulyi-Poli, Orekov and Dnieper. The AFU continued to conduct operations in the direction of Kursk, where Russia carried out 11 attacks. Macron on the ceasefire. Ukrinform reported that at a joint press conference with US President Donald Trump in Washington, French President Emmanuel Macron said that if the peace agreements are signed, the parties will fulfill their obligations, demonstrate solidarity and deterrence, and if the agreements are violated, Russia will face a response from all the countries that are part of the agreement. I have had talks with all our allies and a number of European and non-European countries are ready to join this effort. Some countries continue to help the Ukrainian army maintain its capacity to have a long-term presence in terms of troops or equipment. And US President Donald Trump said, yes, in very strong words. That means there is an agreement that we are the guarantors of. And if Russia violates that agreement, it will be in fact in conflict with all those who have committed to the peace process. Macron raised the possibility of deploying a military force in Ukraine during talks with his US counterpart Donald Trump. He also said that Russian President Vladimir Putin would not object to a European peacekeeping force in Ukraine. Media reports had earlier said that Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer would persuade Trump to provide US support for a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine. Ryazan oil refinery shuts down after Ukrainian drone attack. Russia's Ryazan oil refinery has been shut down following a Ukrainian drone attack on February 24. 3 sources told Reuters. During the attack, the main crude distillation unit CDU-6 caught fire, forcing the plant to completely shut down its refining operations. The sources noted, the Ukrainian military said several of its drones attacked the Ryazan oil refinery on the night of February 24 and that at least 5 explosions were reported in the area. A source told Reuters that the plant could partially resume operations in the next few days. The processing unit CDU-6 has a capacity of about 170.000 barrels per day, or about 48% of the plant's total refining capacity. While CDU-6 is being repaired, the plant could start up its other main distillation units, CDU-4 and CDU-3, sources said. According to sources and Reuters calculations, CDU-4 and CDU-3 have a combined capacity of about 145.000 barrels per day, or about 41% of the plant's total refining capacity. In 2024, the plant processed 13.1 million tons of oil, 262.000 barrels per day, accounting for nearly 5% of Russia's total refining capacity.